Welcome to another edition of the Willy Bragg Show. I am your host, Willy Bragg. Sorry for the long hiatus. Just stuff going on in my day-to-day life. We all work for a living, and we have to properly rest and do all that sort of thing, and do all the other errands of life, all that hubbub. So anyway, I'm glad to be back. I was online earlier today as a guest on the Jabari podcast with Tommy from Tommy Nation Politics as well. We shared a panel and talked about the Victory Day and its significance on events that's happening today on the world scene with regard to the prospects of World War III that none of us want. So anyway, if you get a chance, please do subscribe to Jabari and Tommy Nation Politics. They're both good guys, and they always provide great content. So anyway, be sure to hit the like button, comment if you can. We'll have a conversation. You hit the like button, it helps with the algorithms and all that, because you know how it is. We're all suppressed if you're an independent content maker, especially. So let's get to the subject at hand. The 2024 election. Yes. We have those every 4 years, right? Whether we like it or not. And I used to be excited by presidential elections, even though I hated the main candidates running for every 4 years. Always the two top candidates. That's not changed. No matter what, I'm going to hate the two top contenders in next year. That's not going to change. Some people call it a Tuesday. Well, what do you know? Today is a Tuesday. So anyway, I'm going to face it. Let's face it. The Democrats are in trouble. They are. And, because there is Biden and Harris fatigue. Republicans are not doing so hot either. There is a degree of Trump fatigue. Yeah, he's popular among his supporters, but the establishment Republicans who tolerated him are very tired of him. The right-wing, the mainstream right-wing media complex, Fox News, they're super tired of him, and Daily Wire people are tired of him. And what happened today with the $5 million that he has to pay for it, for what he's charged with. The rape charges and all of that. Well, here's the thing. Trump, that's not going to set very well. And so I think that Trump might possibly be toast at this point. In my opinion, I think he's toast. The downside, and there is a downside to it, this probably is going to be what it takes for Ron DeSantis to get the nomination, and the economy and the world scene don't change for the better. And Russell Dobular said this on Due Dissidence, that he predicts that Ron DeSantis will become the next president in the United States. And I don't think he wants to be right, and I don't want him to be right. I don't want anybody making that prediction to be right, but I think he is unfortunately correct, and God help us all if that ever happens. So let me get started with what I have to say here. As I said, Biden fatigue, Trump fatigue. Let's face it. Well, let's start with the Democrats, because it isn't going to be Kamala Harris. She's not particularly liked. It's not going to be Buttigieg. He's too scripted. And Tim Black once called him a robot. He is a damn robot. And he can't do his job. Gavin Newsom has a lot of baggage as governor of California, but the one thing he has going for him is what he did with insulin in California. And if I was Gavin Newsom aggressively trying to run for president, I would campaign the fuck out of what he did in California, and that is to take over the pharmaceuticals and to produce your own insulin to sell them at a reduced cost because of the abusive nature of pharmacy. But the problem with Democrats is when they do good things, they don't go and brag about it. Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton, I have, you know where I stand on Hillary Clinton, so there is that. So there are two insurgent candidates running right now, Marianne Williamson and Robert Kennedy Jr. So here's the thing. We're going to start with, we'll start with Marianne Williamson. That's what we'll start with. So let me do this here. With regard to Marianne Williamson, where is she? Yeah, we'll start with Marianne Williamson. Yes. Marianne Williamson. Right here she is. And we will talk about her right now. Yeah, the thing about Marianne Williamson, there's some people, there are people on the left that are divided with her, because some people see her as the new Bernie. And there are some people who were Bernie Sanders supporters who are like really burnt out in working within the Democratic Party, and they're just kind of skeptical of her. And while I'm not going to support her or Robert Kennedy, and that's a spoiler alert right now at the end of the day, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to try to be as fair as I can about Marianne Williamson and Robert Kennedy, where I stand on them both, their strengths and their weaknesses. I will objectively talk about that. With regard to Marianne Williamson, I'm going to talk about her. I'm going to stress her weaknesses right now. She's a new age guru. I have no problem with that. But if she somehow managed to get the nomination, she's going to look weird to the American people. It's not going to look weird to me. I'm a weird individual myself, but she's going to appear eccentric and crazy, and people are going to be like, "What the hell is this about?" And so that, and public relations wise, will work against her. And in that regard, that's sad. Where another thing she's got going against her is 4 years ago when she ran, the topic of Medicare for All came up. She was a little hazy on what Medicare for All is or was. And a lot of other Democrats did the same thing. Pete Buttigieg talked about Medicare for All for those who want it. Tulsi Gabbard talked about mimicking the Australian system. Elizabeth Warren couldn't halfway understand the concept of Medicare for All. And the only person, and I have my problems with Bernie Sanders, but the only person that could eloquently describe how to deal with healthcare then was Bernie Sanders. And nobody else could in that primary field. And I'm saying this as somebody who's critical of Bernie Sanders today. So if she's trying to be Bernie Part 2 or Bernie Sanders 2.0, it's just, I just don't see it happening. Some people talk about the grift of Kyle Kalinske and Crystal Ball and people like Steve Donziger and Brianna Joy Gray, all of them jumping on board. Well, I don't know if I want to call it a grift per se, but the thing about it is that with regard to Marianne Williamson, it's just, I'm just not feeling it. It's just on some policy questions where she's lacking. Like foreign policy, although she is not as hawkish as Joe Biden, the way she talks about Russia and Ukraine, it sounds like that it would be a continuation of the norm. She may try to soften it up around the edges, but honestly, the best way to deal with it is to work on negotiation and de-escalation, and not sit there and try to be a hawk about it. Whether you're going to be a hardcore neocon hawk, the way that Ron DeSantis would be, presumably. Let's face it, Ron DeSantis would be George W. Bush II, if not worse, if he's in there. And she would probably be a softer version of what the status quo is, but want something more radical than the softer version of the status quo. So she's lacking up there. Another area where she's lacking in foreign policy is, this humanitarian interventionism. And the thing about it is, if it was literally humanitarian, I'll be okay with it. But usually when people talk about humanitarian interventionism, it ends up somehow, no matter how much you dress a pig, it ends up being neoconservatism all over again. We've had enough neoconservatism, and it sneaks around in various forms. I'm not saying that's what she is. She's not that. But if she's not careful, neocons can sneak in. With all the faults that Trump had while he was in the White House, one area where I think he was a little bit better was foreign policy. But even though he was a little bit better, he fell in certain areas too, because there was too many establishment Republicans around him from the Bush-Cheney era that kind of was guiding him, which is why the United States withdrew from the Iran peace negotiation, ended up murdering General Soleimani in Iran, and ended up, just doubling down on bullying Venezuela once again. So there is that, and for that reason, I have just a little bit of a problem with regard to Marianne Williamson in that regard. And otherwise, I would have nothing against her. So, I just can't really bring myself up to saying that I want to see her be the one. So, is she better than Biden? Absolutely. But is she who we're waiting for? I'm going to have to give you a fair answer, and the answer is no. Now, regarding Kyle Kalinske and Crystal Ball, who got married recently, and I know some people are like giving them a hard time because it was a who's who of the bread tube at their wedding and everything. It was the champagne socialist online left wedding party from hell or from heaven or whatever you want to call it, and with Marianne Williamson, basically performing the marriage and everything. I don't care. Ryan Grimjob and NATO Nomiki Konst, I don't know why they would, but they could tie the knot. I wouldn't give a damn. I wouldn't give a damn if what's her name? Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk tied the knot. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. As far as Kyle Kalinske and Crystal Ball, and I would say this about anybody, even people that I really, 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 really despise, and anybody I really admire when it comes to marriage, you kind of want to wish them the best either way. It's a non-issue as far as the wedding is concerned and everything. So there is also that. Now let's talk about Robert Kennedy for a moment, because we need to talk about Robert Kennedy. Now, with regard to Robert Kennedy, when I think about Robert Kennedy, he's a culmination of many past campaigns. And what I mean by that is that he's like, when I think of Robert Kennedy, what I think of various candidates from the past. Like, for example, I think of Ralph Nader when he was running all the time as the Green Party and occasionally as the independent candidate for president. He kind of reminds me of Ralph Nader in some areas, like environmentalism is one of his concerns and everything like that. So he has kind of a Ralph Nader niche to him in spite of being a Kennedy. And so I understand, where some people might have that appeal. Again, spoiler alert, I do not endorse Robert Kennedy, but I'm going to mention his strengths and weaknesses in a moment. Those who were like really into Dennis Kucinich in 2004, 2008, he sort of covers that niche of people. And for those who don't remember, he was a congressman from Cleveland, Ohio, that he got gerrymandered out of his district about a decade ago. and he was one of the most left-wing members of Congress at that time. And he was always an interesting person. So he sort of fits into, believe it or not, into that niche. And even though he supported Hillary, Robert Kennedy, he sort of fits the niche of those on the Bernie left, maybe those who are not into Marianne Williamson, that were into that, that want somebody other than Marianne Williamson that's not Joe Biden. Those that like Bernie Sanders. I mean, some of those probably would be behind Robert Kennedy. And then, of course, there is Tulsi Gabbard. And I think more than anybody else, I would associate Robert Kennedy Jr. with Tulsi Gabbard in many respects, with the exception of, and she's prettier to look at. I would just say that. But but he has kind of an odd positions that he upholds. That's kind of similar to what Tulsi Gabbard would uphold then and now, whether she's on the left, on the right, or in the center, or wherever you want to go and put her politically. And frankly, I have a tough time trying to figure out where she is. So anyway, so as far as Robert Kennedy is concerned, as I said, I'm going to try to be fair and give you his strength and his weaknesses. And because, as I said, I like to think of myself as a fair person, just as I did with Marianne Williamson. He is considered anti-vax. Now, as regard to that position, I don't know if he is or not. I've always been kind of a moderate on that issue, on the vax issue. I had my position on vax, and everybody hates it. Everybody hates my position on COVID, whether they're on the right or on the left, whether they're a shit lib or whether they're a libertarian or whatever. Everybody hates my position. I'm not going to really go into it, but except to say that when it comes to the vaccine and when it comes to COVID treatment, the one thing that should be stressed is that everybody should be treated for free. If you believe in the vaccines should be for free. But it should not. Do I think it should be mandated? I'm a libertarian enough to think it should be your own choice. But that's my position. I don't want to go into it too much because it's a very delicate issue, and YouTube could get really triggered if I talk about it too much. So, and I hope I didn't say too much that's going to get me in trouble over what I said. So, suffice to say, I have my own little niche position on it, and it gets me in trouble with everybody. I don't know if that's if it's an anti-vax position, if that's enough to discount him or not. My big problem with him, again, regarding Bernie Sanders, even though I have issues with Bernie Sanders in the year 2023, the fact that he chose Hillary Clinton in 2016 over Bernie Sanders is a very, very problematic position for me. Marianne Williamson at least endorsed Bernie Sanders in 2020 when she dropped out. He endorsed Hillary Clinton in 2016. I don't know who he endorsed in 2020, presumably Joe Biden. He sounded like he never supported Bernie Sanders. Again, I'm very critical of Bernie Sanders in 2023, but in the context of 2020, supporting Bernie Sanders was still the right thing to do. Supporting Bernie Sanders in 2016 was the right thing to do back then, and I still stand by that. I just don't want him to run for president in 2024 regarding Bernie Sanders, because I don't want to see what happened to him in 2016 and 2020 happen to him again. And frankly, I want to keep my blood pressure down. I do not want to have a stroke. I do not want to get angry to the level I was angry for the obvious reasons. And I'm not going to go into detail. We know what happened in 2016 and 2020. And we know what happens when you go into detail about this sort of thing. So um, that's a very negative position from my standpoint when it comes to Robert Kennedy. He's wishy-washy on Medicare for all. That's also as bad as being against Bernie Sanders in that regard in 2016. Because if you can't be for Medicare for all, and you're running an insurgent campaign, well, my problem is, what the hell's wrong with you inside of a Democratic primary? So there is also that. Where he is strong is on the issue of Ukraine, where there is a Democratic voice that's actually calling for some sanity on the issue, where negotiation, de-escalation, trying to resolve this shit and trying to prevent World War III, unlike the president of the United States, who wants to do an imitation of George W. Bush on Iraq, doing that with this situation here. You don't do this with another country that has nukes. You do not fuck with another country that has nukes, whether it's Russia or whether it's China or whether it's, we know that Andorra or Liechtenstein don't have nukes, but let's say they did. You don't fuck with them either. You don't fuck with any country that has nukes. And it's just a powder keg waiting to happen. I'm glad that he's talking an anti-war position. Julian Assange, if I didn't mention that, I'm going to mention that now. He's an advocate for Julian Assange, and that's a very, very strong issue for me too, because it's a no-brainer when it comes to Julian Assange. He is being put in prison for doing his job as a journalist, and there are people that have published his stories and they're still free, like the New York Times, and the Guardian. Yet Julian Assange is in Britain's version of Guantanamo Bay in Belmarsh. What's going on there? And I have to be careful with Julian Assange because I get shadow banned for talking too much about Julian Assange. So, somebody's speaking on behalf of Julian Assange. And that's also a winning point for me. He is strongly against censorship. I am a free speech absolutist, as you all know. That's one of my main mantras on the show. And it's something that centrist Democrats have walked away from, and it's something that the left has walked away from and for many, many years. Actually, the truth is most leftists are pro-free speech, but there's just enough out there that made the whole left look bad. And those talking heads and political activists on the right who claim that they're alpha and they support free speech are the first people to silence the left when they get a chance. So the fact that he's a strong supporter of free speech is a selling point with me. And it seems like Kim Iverson and Max Blumenthal and people like that are having some good things to say. So, and that's kind of that's also something to focus on in that regard. But here's the thing, with regard to that, in my opinion, there's not going to be a primaries. They said we're not having debates. What kind of bullshit is that for the Democratic Party? Business as usual, no debates, which is, I just think that's awful that's what's going to happen. And it's unexcusable, absolutely unexcusable. So right there you have it. And I don't, and neither of them are going to get the nomination because, it's just not going to happen. It's possible that Joe Biden may have to step down because his cognitive decline. We don't know yet. We don't know. But if somehow he gets if he's, the standard bearer for the Democrats, and Donald Trump can escape all this what's happened today with the $5 million fine he has to pay. Well, here's the thing about Trump and Biden. You'll see the same old from 2020. And that's not good either. And on the Democratic side, I don't want I don't want Biden. I don't want Harris. I don't want Buttigieg. What I wanted in 2020 was Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard. That's what I wanted. But what I wanted in 2020 didn't happen. And what I did not want happened. So there is that. But I don't want to make it sound like I'm just taking a shit on the Democrats here. Oh, I almost did something wrong here. I'm so sorry. Oh, okay. Y'all can hear me, I hope. Okay, good. I almost signed off. I'm so sorry about that. Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about the next subject here. And that's where are they? Where are they? Right here we are. We're going to see basically a primary, more than likely Donald Trump versus Ron DeSantis. Okay. On the Democratic side, I do not endorse Marianne Williamson or Robert Kennedy, but I do acknowledge both of them are preferable to Joe Biden. And I'm saying this as somebody who does not endorse either one of them. Same thing applies to the Republican Party. Ron DeSantis, I see Ron DeSantis in the same negative light as I see Joe Biden on the Democratic side. Ron DeSantis is a neocon. He's of the George W. Bush variety, Dick Cheney variety. It will be a return to that if he's elected as president. And, any problems, Donald Trump's got a lot of problems. And I don't want Donald Trump back in there either. But, between Trump and DeSantis, Donald Trump is the lesser evil. At least he will provide humor. While, in my opinion, Ron DeSantis will provide mass arrest of people in a very competent way. Maybe Donald Trump is as authoritarian to the core as Ron DeSantis, but he's not as competent. And there you have a little bit of hope. When you have somebody who's not as competent, I would take Trump over DeSantis. You got a fighting chance. And I don't want Trump in there either, honestly. So, heck, if I could just put a president in there right now, if I could put somebody in there right now, who the heck would I put in there right now? I talked about a Jimmy Dore, Brianna Joy Gray ticket one time, and I stand by that. But Jimmy Dore doesn't want to run for president, and I don't think anybody's ever talked to Brianna Joy Gray about ever running for president. So, and I would support that. Jimmy Dore, Brianna Joy Gray, just would make a great presidential candidate as well. Somebody that will speak on policy and everything of that nature. But I don't see it happening there anytime soon. Republicans is a no-go for me. Always been a no-go. But so the Democrats are too. So, and I'm likely probably not to vote in the next election, or if I vote, I'll just vote for the Greens as I normally do every 4 years. And there's that. So that's pretty much my piece on everything right now. And so just wanted to go and get that out of my chest. And we have a busy little chat line here. So let's talk to everybody here. And I haven't really delved too much into the chat lines as of late because, I just been consumed by time constraints and all of that. So I got a little bit of time right now. So we'll talk to everybody here. And this is from Philip Capehart. And he wrote, Kennedy, JFK, and Marianne Williamson, if they're going to have Anita assist in their campaign, they're going to have to fight the corrupt system. DNC and Reggie is the primary against or that running. I'm not quite sure what that means. DNC and the Democratic Party never going to make election. Well, y'all can see that. I don't want to read it because Yeah, I don't want YouTube to misinterpret these words. So let's see. JFK and Marianne Williamson better run as an independent. They better run as an independent or do a dirty break. That's what I would have to say. Let's see. And again, I am not going to go too much into detail about that. I have made it a policy not to go into detail about the what you see there. So I just don't want to get in trouble. And I said I was going to be there at 11 o'clock tonight as promised, and I kept my promise. So let's see here. Let's see. Okay. All right. Let's see. Janine Queen of Hearts said hi. Hi. And Philip, let's see. We need to build a third-party movement. Yes, we do. And Kashama Sawant, I believe in her work with the Worker Strike Back movement. That's who I endorse right now. Exile the sovereign military order of Malta. Lesson you want to Guantanamo. Google for president. How you doing, Choosey? Heretics choose Carnation Revolutions now. Oh, by the way, there will be a Carnation Revolution video soon. Maybe at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. If not, it will happen. I just been constrained by time lately. That's what's been happening to me. Let's see here. Hello, everyone says around the world with D and friends. How are you doing today? Let's see here. I am okay with weird, as long as they have are strong on the same issues. I am. Same here. She's strong on some issues, but there are more serious issues now than she's not addressing, and some of them. And totally agree. Totally agree. Let's see. Y'all are too nice. You don't know how to describe vacuous cancer. Blah blah blah. Okay, I can't talk about that. I'm sorry. See all that. Nothing against it. When I say I can't talk about that, I'm just trying to keep us all out of trouble. I'm making a judgment call. So just wanted to say that much. Exactly. Marianne Williamson is not totally anti-war, which is not being anti-war. Yeah, and you need to be anti-war. I stand by that a whole lot. You have to be anti-war these days. She must be for the coke, otherwise it makes no sense. Let's see. Trump vetoed that Stop the War Yemen Act that was killing thousands of innocent people. That is correct. That was correct. Yeah, he was real bad on the Saudi Arabia, Yemen. He was he was bad on that. But Ben Shapiro was mad that a drone that was blown up by an unmanned American drone that was blown up by Iran. Ben Shapiro wanted him to go and invade Iran over it, and he decided not to in the last minute. It was in 2019 this happened. See, some are red, some are blue, but all have butthole place card and bloodstained hands and shoes of poo. Yep, pretty much. Let's see. Marianne Williamson has a horrible foreign policy. RFK actually has a decent foreign policy takes, including disbanding U.S. military bases around the world and understanding the nuance of the Ukraine war. That is where his strong appeal is on foreign policy. And that's probably where she has the weakest position on foreign policy. If she was a little bit better on foreign policy, I could look at her better in a better light. RFK used to upgrade on foreign policy philosophy. However, he doesn't seem to have knowledge of the hierarchy of fascism right here. I think he actually does. I think he's just careful with his words because his name is Kennedy, and I'll go no further than that. Let's see. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm kind of budgeting for time at this point. Most, if not all, people are going to agree with someone on everything. Kennedy Jr. is the strongest on our freedom. He has my vote. And again, if anybody in my audience wants to vote for whomever they want to vote for, I'm not one to tell you, you can't vote for that person. I'm not that kind of a person. In fact, whatever I say, and you believe different, that is your position. I'm not one to demand for people to fall in line with what I believe. I'm just sharing my thoughts, and that's because I consider myself a free thinker, and I encourage free thinking among others. So maybe he wants to use historically famous name for paddling around the standing of the military officers. Talk about something constructive like Portugal in 1974, and how about those Mets? Yeah, 1974 in Portugal doesn't get talked about a lot, and it does hurt my feelings that doesn't get talked about. Let's see. Being too eager to vote for is ignorant to the fact that we cannot expect political fascists that from looking at history, it would be insanely historically naive to assume that that's possible. And Gamer said, hello. Yankee Tanky says, hey, Willie, how you doing, Yankee Tanky? We cannot expect political solutions of fascism that would be insanely historically naive. Don't disagree. Good evening, and good evening once again, Gamer. Let's see. Hi, see, Shaken Bacon is here, I guess. So, hi, Shaken Bacon. Let's see. Hold on a second. I have trouble scrolling, and my mouse is not working, so I'm sorry about that. Let's see. Expecting political. Oh, we've been reading that. Let's see. Kennedy Jr. is not anti-vax. He is anti-forcing them. He's pro-vaccine safety. Well, that would be my position. That would be my position. Inviting China and Russia and Mexico and Canada to invade us, because that's pretty much what the Knights have in store for us. I'm not sure what that means, actually. Careful, Willie. I don't know what context, but I guess I'll be careful. Oh, okay. It's a red flag, to be fair. I know what yeah. What's up, Yankee? Figures you show up right here. I mentioned the Mets. Let's see. You're right. Yankee Tanky, it does not like supporting Kennedy Jr. It's not just the channels, but many comments in the comment sections go prove I support him too much. Let's see here. RFK is better on Russia. He objectively is, actually. I support the forces behind both Trump and RFK. And from a strategic anti-war perspective, because when somebody supports a candidate for office, it's not like they support every aspect. Even Bernie Sanders supporters, I knew that there were people that supported Bernie Sanders for different reasons. When I was supporting Bernie Sanders in 2016, 2020, I was just grateful they were supporting Bernie Sanders. Not all Sanders supporters were all alike. And in fairness, and I always known this, that not all Trump supporters were all alike. I knew that there was a big coalition of people. Yeah, there are people in the Trump coalition, MAGA coalition, I have no use for. I called them the Bush-Cheney faction of the coalition. The ones that that still believe Rush Limbaugh's words to the day he died. Those kind of people. The Sean Hannity's out there, the ones that those people. Those are those people. They're actually the ones that were supporting anybody but Trump in 2016 until he became the nominee, and then they actually liked some of the right wing policies, and then they really fallen in love with Trump later on. Those might be the worst people you can imagine. The ones that hated Trump in 2016 because they thought he was too liberal, that fell in love with Trump in 2020 because he was more right wing on certain issues than they thought he would be, those might be the worst people around, because they hated him for the wrong reasons, then they loved him for the wrong reasons. The world's really funny like that. Let's see. The problem with politicians, they seem to like politics. Ain't that the truth? I support them only as icons. Let's see. Our oppressors just aren't good at definitions of math on purpose. Let's see here. I keep on saying, let's see here. Robert was anti-digital, was anti-wars, anti-banning free speech, and those are good reasons. Again, he's got some strong issues, that he got some strong things going for him. So, as I said, and it looks like we're going to be running into an hour before too long with all these I see over here. So I do see Miguel. Hey, how you doing, Miguel? So anyway, I just wanted to conclude, and glad everybody showed up here. And I said my piece on this right now. So again, I do not endorse Marianne Williamson. I do not endorse Robert F. Kennedy. But I do hope that they cause a ruckus inside the Democratic Party. I do not endorse Ron DeSantis. I do not endorse Donald Trump. But I hope that there is a civil war going on inside the Republican Party. I hope both parties self-destruct so we can politically start over again and have multiple parties. Because I think we have multiple parties, we can probably get more things done, and we'll have less culture war bullshit as a result. So if you like what you heard, please press like and comment. If you disagree with what I have to say, comment anyway. We will have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are all the muckrakers of our time. Subscribe and hit the notification bell here on my YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitch. Follow me on YouTube and Twitter. Facebook and Twitter. And I'm building a Rumble channel, and you'll see the information on the description box below. If you have a Rumble channel and you haven't followed me yet, could you please follow me so I can actually easily stream as easily as I stream on YouTube, because I want to start using Rumble aggressively when I get a chance. So I appreciate if you could. And always reject corporate media, because they have absolutely nothing at all to offer. Not a damn thing. And until next time, I'm Willy Bragg. Peace and good night.